here is the antidote. This is where we grab some of the most pressing events happening in the world. We have an analysis of those events, but we also are really specific about solutions, about the antidotes to the things that are plaguing our society. And so tonight we have a very, very special guest, somebody I cannot wait to just listen to. Every time I hear this brother speak, I learn so much. I leave feeling full, feeling more human, and feeling really, really hopeful. And so coming off Mandani in NYC, this feels like a really timely conversation. And so without further ado, we are going to bring Dr. Durryle Brooks onto the stage. What's up? Let me bring him up here.
What's
There
up,
he
good
is.
people?
There he is.
What's
Hello,
up?
Durryle. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm
Man,
here. I'm trying to stay
listen, and
cool.
now I get to tell people, look at my man. Go ahead and like and subscribe right now. How could you not like and subscribe right now? We
That's right. Do it. Do it. Why don't you just go
do it.
ahead? You know you
Like and
want
subscribe.
to.
Then when I miss some weeks, you might actually care. There'll be enough people to care. And be, no, that wasn't dope. He shouldn't have left us. um,
Hilarious. Bro,
yes.
thank you for
So
having me on the show.
thank you for coming, man. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. Um, yeah. So we met. We were in. Was it 2 years ago now?
2 years,
We
yeah.
were in Oklahoma, in Tulsa.
In Tulsa. That was my first time there. Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. And it was just happenstance that we were out, some mutual people, I think mutual connections, and got to chopping it up. Turned out came to your session, and you were talking about love and connection, and it was just everything that I needed to hear. I think everything that the world needs to hear. And so it's been just a pleasure to build with you since then. Got the chance to be in your session at WPC again this year. It was amazing.
Thank you.
And so I would love for you to just give you a second to tell the audience, what do you do? What is it that you do, man? Because I think, people can get the idea of love and they think like, oh, you're talking about like warm fuzzies, and that's not at all what you're on.
Right, right. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. My name is Dr. Durryle Brooks. For all you out there, folks out there, you can follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram.
We'll link to that too.
And so I hail from Baltimore, and that really matters to me. Partly because I think it informs my social analysis. And growing up in a red line neighborhood that was supposed to be a bastion for middle class Black people back in the day, but then they did the okey doke, and of course denied us, and then sort of put us over here in a little corner and put us next to an incinerator that puts all sorts of chemicals in our neighborhood, and then they get mad at us and judge us when we have hypertension and asthma and all these different things. But I say that to say, because my work on love really is centered on a social analysis. And I think what happened was it was coming through life, and realizing all the ways, particularly around stepping into my queerness at a real early age. I grew up AME, African Methodist Episcopal, and at that time, as I was having an emergent sexual identity, like we also got a homophobic pastor, and I watched a community that said they loved me, that they wanted to take care of me. It all fell apart. It totally dissipated. Well, for the most part, I still had some ride or dies with them, but the environment became toxic. And what happened was, in that moment, I was learning some real tough lessons about love, and one of them was that the way in which people were talking about and constructing the idea of love was actually not helpful. It was toxic and destructive. It was about compliance and control. And whether they were using scripture or folks in your family was like, well, I need you to do this because if you love me, you'll be a good son. And so all of these different parts of my life were sort of all forcing me to grapple with what is the fundamental idea of love, and why is it making me sick? And I think
Oh,
when I did that, that opened up a world where once I was able to move from my individual analysis of love as a feeling, I could then ask structural questions about love. Like, why is it that so many people think this way, that control and compliance are par for the course when it comes to quote unquote loving somebody? And so then you go once you start asking why about whole swaths of people and how society is structured, you already in your analysis, like,
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
so most of my work now is really about helping people to reconceptualize the very idea of love so that we can reclaim it in love in its social political lineage. And it has a social political lineage.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point of like that this idea. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but every time I hear you say that, it brings me such it feels so liberating. The idea that love grows, that it comes from something, right? That you have been taught it and you will teach it, and that it will look different the first
Mhm.
time that you've been taught it to the times that you teach it and how you taught it. Like I think I look at my daughters, right?
Yeah.
Or and I'm like, oh, I tried to teach you this lesson
Mm,
and I thought it was gonna look this way,
yeah.
but it's looking different for you because one, you're not me, right?
Yeah.
You don't have my lived experiences.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be filtered through your frame. It has a lineage. It has
Mhm.
it's organic, it's living. Talk a little bit about that in terms of so I'm talking about it really personal, like
Yeah.
interpersonally, but there's a lineage of love or the lack thereof in
Exactly.
America.
Geez. Okay. So first of all, like I think when I start talking about love in the social political lineage, I'm reminded of Dante King, who was at WPC this past year, and his keynote was talking about just uplifting all of the ways in which the legal system had criminalized blackness to justify enslavement. And then I
Yep.
think about Dr. Joy DeGruy's work, where she talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she gives this beautiful YouTube clip where she talks about she shows an image of a white young girl. It was a old photo. It was a lynching that they had put in the newspaper, and they had these young white girls and young children watching a lynching of a black person, and
Yep.
they looked unfazed. And so, and then she did another example about like a young person who, a white child who had more empathy for a dog than for black people. And so when we talk about love and locating in the social political lineage, or the lack thereof, I think one of the fundamental functions of oppression is to pollute the idea of love to justify the dehumanization of people. And I think
Absolutely.
that has been what I've been able to start tracking, was that once you start looking at it, there's a cost. And I think we were talking about that before we hopped on, to sort of buying into oppressive systems. And I think for the founding of this country, the cost was your capacity to express the type of love that would be transformative. Because if love was going to be, there was no way that colonization was going to allow a transformative love to exist. So the one that we have right now is the one that's only serving it. It's construction around capitalism. It's construction around individualism. It's construction around take, consume. And honestly, I think that's the for me, the question about liberation is about a function of love. Will we love each other enough to do right by each other? And I think if we can get real about that, then we can actually talk about systems of inequality, and the lineage, and the continual criminalization of Black people, Native people, Indigenous people, immigrant people, undocumented folks that we're seeing right now. And there seems to be a lack of love and empathy and compassion. They can't even access it. And I think that's the outcome. That's the cost.
I mean, and that's I was gonna try to look it up, but I'm like, I don't even know if I could, but I know there's something that Stephen Miller has been quoting and throwing out there around empathy being like the bane of Western existence, or like the Achilles heel of Western society. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right, actually. Because they're not even critically thinking about the relationship between whiteness and Western society, and like, or definitely not humanity. Um, but that brings me to a question that I wasn't sure I was gonna ask, because I'm like, I don't know if we can go there, but I think you set it up perfectly, and fuck it, let's just do it.